COVID-19. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. Every weekday, 1 p.m., live on Jane Unchained, I'm bringing you all the leaders in the plant-based world who are literally giving us a safer future by giving us a safer food supply as we live through COVID-19. Of course, certainly not the first meat-borne pandemic, mad cow disease, Ebola, swine fever, Asian bird flu, coronavirus. These are all meat-borne pandemics. I'm concerned that people aren't making the connection between eating meat and creating the demand for meat and a wildly unhealthy, unstable situation for us and the planet. So here I give a platform for consumers and investors to learn about the leaders who are literally taking us in a new direction. I think the only sustainable direction, the only real solution to the problems that we have, which is an unhealthy planet, cruelty to animals at unspeakable levels, and a very unhealthy situation for ourselves, not just our own health, but our mental health. This has been such a stressful time with COVID-19. And let's face it, it hasn't been a great time for our wallets either. This has been a very expensive, could have been avoided situation. Most people are out of work at this time. So let's talk about the solution to the future. A quick plug for myself, I'll say. In the notes of this show, it allows you to subscribe to the iTunes podcast for the Plant-Based Business Hour, which is part of the Awesome Vegans podcast. Do that now. Do that now. And if you feel so inclined, please support me on Patreon. This is a daily show. It's a boatload of work. I'm sort of my own little news channel here on daily show. It's lots of work. So support on Patreon if you can, but definitely subscribe and write a review to Awesome Vegans podcast. Okay. So we focus a lot on the plant-based solution in Western Europe and the United States, but it's much bigger than that. Meat demand is down in Western Europe and the United States, but it's up across the world because of China and India. So I recently had an interview with one of the leaders in China, David Young of Omnipork. I love him, but this is my very first interview live from India. I want to bring in the CEO of GoodDot, Abhishek Sinha. Oh my word, I hope that I am pronouncing that correctly. Abhishek, do I have that right?
Yeah, you are correct, Elizabeth.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Thanks. It's a privilege being here.
I'm so happy you're here with me. I do think the world of all the work that you're doing, and your company, GoodDot, is truly moving the needle in India. Before we talk about all that GoodDot does, the products that you offer, your competitive advantage that makes you such a foothold in turning India vegan, let's pull out a little bit and go more global. I thought that Indians culturally we're already vegan. Help us understand the landscape in India towards eating meat.
Yeah, so you're right. The perception is definitely that Indians are mostly vegetarians. You see, there's a difference between, of course, vegan and vegetarians. So veganism is quite new to India in the sense that Indians are 28% of Indians are vegetarians. So that means 72% Indians eat meat. So which is a big, revealing factor for most of the people outside India. So that percentage of meat eating population is increasing because as more prosperity happens, the protein intake, more so the animal protein intake increases. But veganism is catching up pretty fast because of social media. Youngsters are becoming more and more aware, and there are a lot of celebrities in the sports world as well as in the Bollywood industry who are embracing veganism. So that is like really helping the cause for sure.
I love that. And again, I'll give myself a little plug. I would love to have some Bollywood celebs on this show. I kid you not. So if there's any connection there to be made, I'm open to that. Okay, so 78% of India eats meat. Did I get that right?
Yeah, 72%.
72%, sorry.
Yeah, 72% eat meat and 28% are vegetarians.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's an enormous. I mean, India is a huge country, obviously.
Yes.
So 72% of meat eaters who are becoming wealthier and wealthier, which is great for them, but they turn this prosperity towards eating animals, which, as we all know for ourselves, is not great for our health. It's also the source of this current pandemic, but it's awful for the planet. And then clearly, obviously, not a good choice for animals. So, what can you do culturally? Like when I had David Young on this program, he was saying, I have to outcool the meat producers. I have to make my advertising, I can't just tell people it's good for them. People don't want to hear that. That's not so exciting. I have to turn people around. So celebrities certainly help, but what are you doing at GoodDot to sort of bridge that gap and bring people over to veganism?
So basically, at GoodDot, our team believes that veganism is not a diet; it's a lifestyle.
Mm,
You see, we believe everyone is a vegan. They just have not made the connection.
I love
All of
that.
us are compassionate, right? We don't like to hurt animals, and we want
Yes.
the earth to be a stable and a nice place. So all of us are vegans. It's just that we have to make that connection, right? And there's a movie called Godfather where they say, "I'll give you an offer you cannot refuse," right? So we are giving a very tasty product which is much more affordable than meat. That is our benchmark. And also shelf stability. So taste, price, and convenience is what we are targeting, and in the same category, in the same priority. So that is our go-to strategy.
So let's talk about Green Dot specifically, because you do really have some competitive advantages. I'll say not just to meat, but also to your other perhaps plant based competitors. Maybe you don't really see them as plant based competitors, but you really lead the marketplace, I'll say, in cost efficiency. So before we start talking about that, I just want to tell people about some of your products so they understand what we're talking about. You really do make your products for the Indian market. And I think just at this point, you're only in India. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are in India. We also sell in Nepal and a little bit in Dubai, but we have big orders to be executed for Dubai and Canada.
And
So we'll
Canada.
be, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And some of your products are biryani, Thai green curry, veg curry tikka, pulao, a dehydrated chicken-like protein called protease. Um, so these are some of the products. I would like to know if you're getting to Canada. Are you coming to the US?
Yeah, that's the plan. So, post the Canadian rollout, within a few months, we see the response, and then we'll be rolling out in the US also. Yeah.
So, like you were saying before, these products are shelf stable. So, I think of them as great camping items because all you have to do is add water. Sometimes you don't even have to cook them, so they're ready to eat. Or ready to cook, depending on which kind you want to get. So when I say ready to eat, you can just add water, or ready to cook, you can heat up. But let's say that you're going camping. A lot of these dehydrated products, you like the chicken, which I think is so smart. You can just add water. It's sorry, protease, which is dehydrated chicken-like product. You can just add water, and then you have it for your rice when you're camping. It's really great.
Yeah, and then we have a lot of products which we are coming out with. You just need to just take out from the pack, and you can just eat it right away. If you wish to eat, you can just heat it up, and that's all. And these are chunks of meat. So we have a lot of products coming through, and whereas we have kept convenience and easy transportability and carriage in mind of people.
So, why did you focus on that? Is that a need in India to have meals that are ready to made and shelf stable?
So basically, initially when we launched, we initially targeted the upstream product. What we say upstream, by upstream we mean chunks of meat, right? Cuts of meat. It's difficult to make real cuts of meat rather than to make minced or
Oh, yes.
downstream product, right? So for example, a chicken. piece of chicken, a piece of lamb or mutton, a piece of, say, pork or beef, something like that. Those are difficult to make because the texture is like very defining for that particular meat. So we wanted to target first those. Then we have now entered into the downstream product, which are convenient. You don't have to cook it up. It's just ready out there. So overall, we have tried to make those products as easy to for customers to have, and that has really helped us get good share of market in India.
Are there many competitors in India?
There are a couple of mock meat producers who have been much earlier than us, but in terms of the products, what we offer is very different because the earlier texturized vegetarian proteins are very distinct from the real cutting edge plant based meat which is being manufactured, which are much more closer to meat. So thereby, like we in a very short span, we have become the market leader in India, and now we are even having very interesting opportunities outside India. Some of them, I'm by NDA, I'm bound, so I cannot disclose. But very soon we'll be in a lot many countries. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know that you can't tell us exactly, but can you give us a general time frame?
For example, the order for Dubai and Canada is ready for dispatch. There is a current lockdown in India on account of the coronavirus. So the moment the lockdown is lifted, these products will be out there to be shipped to those particular markets. Then we are also very close to launching in Singapore and, in fact, Africa. we,
Oh,
we are, yeah, and Australia also. We have
sure.
some interesting conversations going on for product introduction.
So I have a great question here from Tom Vincel. Do you use chickpea or soy protein? Can you talk about what is the base ingredient for the products?
So we have very different products in terms of base products. So it's a mix of the products. Some will have pea protein as the main ingredient. Others would have soy protein and wheat protein. So it's a mix
Mhm.
of soy protein, pea protein, and wheat protein across different products.
I just want to answer Anita Verma here. Yes, everything you do is plant based, 100% plant based. And Michelle Alfano, my sister, says, cool that you're launching in Africa. Thanks, you guys, for being with us today. So, I think of one of your strongest attributes is that, to my knowledge, fill me in if I've got this wrong, you can undercut almost anyone in price. And perhaps this is because where it's made, so the costs of the supplies that go into making the products are probably lower for you. But this is such a distinct advantage. And one of the problems with plant based options is that they, at this point, haven't scaled up to be ubiquitous everywhere. Therefore, they're still rather expensive. So, this thought that you can be such a cheaper option for Indian consumers, it's not just that you're shelf stable and it's not just that you're offering them healthy protein, but you're offering them healthy, tasty protein, which is easy to get through distribution and it's less expensive. This is huge. Have other
Yeah.
companies asked you to supply them with your base product?
Yeah, we have received quite a few requests from them, and those are not just in India but across the globe. And we are in talks with a few companies, and depending upon how we position ourselves and how those companies want to go ahead, we'll look at those options. Yes, for sure, we have received those requests.
I would think. I would think. So hats off to you. That's wonderful. So perhaps you can also
Thank
walk
you.
us through where you see your biggest growth. Obviously, you're going to Canada and the Middle East, so and Africa. So that's obviously huge growth there. But in the type of products that you're putting out, what has been the most popular and where do you see yourself expanding?
So, yeah, the two products what we had was the vegan mutton or a lamb replacement has been a major hit in India, and also the dehydrated product which is a vegan chicken replacement because a lot of five-star luxury properties are using that as the base ingredients to make Oriental style chili chicken, and it also makes egg scramble Indian style. We call it egg burji. So it makes an egg burji out of it with zero cholesterol and extremely high protein content. So that is quite interesting. But now we have developed a product which is a very premium chicken replacement, and those will be rolled out in Indian market and outside. So we see a very massive growth area in that particular segment. Chicken, vegan chicken also.
Vegan chicken, sure, of course. I think of I've read a couple places, the Good Food Institute. Both of us are big fans. I'm not sure if it came from the Good Food Institute, but I have seen headlines saying 2020 is the year of plant-based chicken, vegan chicken. And, if 2018, 2019 was the vegan burger, the plant-based burger, now it's going to be the plant-based chicken. But I want to backtrack because you gave us a lot of really great information there. First of all, to the US market, the fact that there's a plant-based lamb, otherwise known as mutton, is groundbreaking. It's very exciting. I had on this show Andrew Ive, who is the CEO of Big Idea Ventures. He has an office in Singapore, and that's the first time I ever learned that there is a plant-based lamb or mutton. So thank you for doing that. I completely agree about plant-based chicken, but you kind of confused me on the egg dish. Are you saying that you also do a plant-based egg?
So basically, in India, the way egg is scrambled, right? You cook egg scramble in the Western world. In India, it's more a drier form. It's called egg bhurji, which is a minced form of egg. It is something like a scrambled egg, but not with cheese and coagulation in that. But it is a bit separate. So protease has been used by us at our outlets as well as at the lot of five stars as egg replacement. So it's indistinguishable from actually egg bhurji, and that is why, and it's extremely affordable. So it's a big hit. It's a big hit here.
Wow. So this dehydrated chicken, plant-based chicken, can also be used as an egg bhurji substitute.
Yeah.
It's so very exciting. It's so very exciting.
And we have those, we have the recipe videos on our YouTube channel. And interestingly enough, there was an event in Canada called Parliament of World Religion in November of 2018. So it is a 125-year-old organization where all the religious leaders, they gather. And this was the 7th edition. For the first time, a vegan banquet was held in November of 2018. And it was organized by Charter for Compassion. And we were exclusively served at the vegan banquet. And they made chicken pot pie out of that protease, the dehydrated. There was a chef from, celebrity chef from US called Sandra Selani. She made chicken pot pie. And they had, Thai curries, stir fries made out of our lamb products. So it was quite exceptional, the response, what we received there.
So it's so very frustrating to me that we're living through COVID-19 because I want to try these products so badly, and I can't even ask you to send them to me because these, shipping restrictions. But I do want to get my hands on some of those, so I'm going to hold you to that. When we are done with COVID-19, I'm coming for you, and you have to send me some of that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah,
we are ready.
Good. I'm so happy to hear it. It is just really groundbreaking what you're doing, because I love not only that you're going direct to consumer, but you're going to things like hotels and banquet halls. And so you're getting people who might not otherwise want to, on their own accord, try or test or spend the money to do something that's new and novel for them. But here, if it's at a banquet, they're getting that taste test regardless. So it's just so very exciting. Yeah. And I should add that you're only about 2 years old. Is that right?
So basically, our company was launched in 2016, but the work, pre-incorporation work on the R&D happened since 2013 onwards. We were working on the product, but the launch of the company was in 2016, and the product launch, the commercial launch, was in 2017. The first commercial launch was 2017. Yeah.
So just about 3 years now. Yes. And your background isn't in the science at all. You're a finance guy, I think, if I've got that right. And how did you find your scientists? I know a lot of this is, proprietary, and you're not going to share exactly what's in the products, et cetera. But how did you find your scientists? Was it through the help of Good Food Institute or just people you already knew in India?
So basically, I am a chemical engineer by qualification.
Hmm.
So I have the engineering background in terms of the mechanical aspect of the equipments and all. We have within our team protein scientists, PhDs in protein chemistry, flavor experts, and also biochemists, biophysicists. So having said that, it's a complete team which is all in house. In fact, there's Abhinav, who is a protein scientist from. He has done his PhD from Oregon, and there are Harish, who's a flavor expert who has had a lot of experience in the culinary side of stuff, and a few more other key people. Deepak, in fact, is one of the guys who has been the CFO of one of the largest FMCG company in this part of the country. So we have a big team. Right now, we are probably within GoodDot 120 plus, a strong team with around 20-22 people in the R&D space.
Wow, that's great. And
Yeah.
do you see your staff growing? I would think because your sales are growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add, like we have also started through a sister company, fast food outlet, vegan fast food
Oh,
outlets,
great.
exclusively based upon our products. So you'll have vegan burgers, you have fried chicken, you have wraps, and all that.
Mm.
And in just 1 year of operation, we have been ranked the best vegan restaurant by Indian Restaurant Congress. And Lonely Planet has ranked us the world's number two vegan food truck. So
Oh.
that that is again, we have managed to do well.
Wow, I again hats off to you because it sounds like a natural to everyone that if you're making food, you would go into the restaurant space and you would go into the food truck space, but these are actually very different business models. And so
Yeah,
to keep them all afloat, your distribution channels are so different if you're trying to reach hotels or you're trying to go direct to consumers via Amazon, which I think you do, or also grocery store chains, or you're running a food truck, or you're running a restaurant. These are all different things. So um, typically in the plant-based space, we all wear many, many hats, and you are no exception to that. So thank you for all that
thank
work
you.
that you're doing. Um,
Thank you.
so let's talk a little bit. Well, let's go back again to the cultural aspect. I believe it was from the Good Food Institute. They did a study last year about how open people would be in the US, China, and India towards plant based products. And China, which makes a lot of sense because of their vegetarian past, I think 63% of consumers said that they were open to plant-based anything. So plant-based meat, meats, or just, rice and vegetables. And I think India came in at 62% were open to this, and America was something like 32%. We don't have that tradition that you guys have. So um, are you are you feeling that you've got the wind at your back, let's say, with culturally, you've got a historical perspective where rice and vegetables are already quite natural to you, and then the tides are turning, so the timing is right. I'm sort of giving you the answer, but I'm wondering what you're
Yeah.
feeling the cultural shift is and how quickly it's shifting.
So you're right. The particular study was done by Good Food Institute, University of Bath of UK, and Center for Long Term Priorities from Hong Kong across three major countries: America, China, and India. So basically, India topped the chart with 63% of acceptance of plant-based meat, followed by China at
Thank you.
62,
Thank
and
you.
37% probably was American acceptance of plant-based meat. So China has a 1200-year-old history of plant-based meat or mock meat, right? So that, and there have a lot of mock meats, traditional mock meats in their culture and in the market. So acceptance was quite high, which was natural. India, it is a need which is latent, which became manifest in that survey. See, when we talk about 28% Indians being vegetarians, right? Uh, that means that it's the largest population as well as largest percentage of people who are vegetarians. So by and large, Indians have vegetarian values. And there's a joke which goes around and say that there's no non-vegetarians or meat eaters in India. There are vegetarians who happen to eat meat.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
basically, they eat once in a week, probably at the max twice in a week, just one meal. So that is a typical consumption of meat eaters in India. They're not like as strong a meat eater as the Western world or other places. So the vegetarian values are quite ingrained. So meat eaters themselves, by and large, they would be eating, vegetarians. most of the time. But once in a week or twice in a week, they will have meat in the meal. This is a general trend. So that explains the acceptance of plant-based meat by the majority, including meat eaters in India.
I see. So you are at a distinct advantage there. So you don't really
Absolutely.
have the cultural hurdle that we have
Yeah.
here in the United States. I'm learning so much from you. I did not realize that China had a history of mock meats. Are you referring to tofu
Yeah,
or?
the earliest tofu, seitan, tempeh. So when
Yes.
Chinese got
Okay.
into Buddhism, at that moment of time, they wanted to have the taste of meat without actually having any violence on their hand. So that was the reason why it was developed initially. So they have a big culture of plant-based meat. So those are the earliest form of plant-based meat, if I may say so. But yeah,
hmm
that
hmm
trend has been like pretty phenomenal. And just to add to it, so we have a tailwind in terms of plant-based meat, but for veganism, plant-based dairy is another case, because in India dairy consumption is quite high, and
Yes.
that's culturally rooted. For example, say in the US and Western world, you'll have Thanksgiving where turkey is used, and there are so many meat culturally sensitive meat celebration of festivities. But in India, it's linked to dairy. So
Mm.
dairy will have headwinds. So it'll take a different route, and it'll be a longer route as compared to America, where the dairy acceptance has been quite phenomenal. Plant-based dairy acceptance has been quite phenomenal. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, so in the United States, 65% of consumers, and it's much higher with Asian Americans and African Americans, but if you put everyone together, 65% of Americans are lactose intolerant. So you have a health issue already forcing people to a plant based alternative. The Indian culture doesn't have this issue, I don't believe, a lactose intolerance. Is that correct?
I don't have actual data. By my
Mm,
I suspect we have a lot of lactose intolerance. It's just that it's not
mm,
recorded.
mm.
People are not as aware about those aspects as in the Western world. So people might just say that my digestion is not good. I feel bloated
Mm.
and all that, but they don't have not gone to the depth of it that they may be lactose intolerant.
Interesting. That's interesting. Well, so I definitely want to come back to the health perspective. And if there's any government recognition that it's expensive to eat meat, and if there's any government pushback to keep people plant based. But just hold that thought. We've been talking a little about culture, and intertwined in that is religion. And I'm always amazed that religion enters into this subject so much and is often at odds with itself. So a religion might say, like Hinduism or Christianity, or it's not just I'm not singling out any one religion. It's kind of all of them. That kindness and compassion, these are things that drive the religion, and then there's all this meat consumption behind it. So I'm wondering what you can help me understand from the religious perspective you have working with you or working against you.
Uh, with the plant-based meat, I think it's working with us.
Mm-hmm.
Plant-based dairy, I think it'll be a bit more of uphill thing, because it is culturally ingrained. Even the Ayurveda, which is a traditional form of Indian medicine, has got a lot of application of clarified butter and milk in those treatments. So that would be difficult, but I can say that a lot of people are becoming more and more aware about the challenges, both from health, environment, and also from an ethical point of view
Mm-hmm.
in the dairy industry. So people are realizing that. Uh, Eventually, as I said, all of us are vegan. It's just a question of making the connection. It'll happen. There's no it is bound to happen.
I love that. And so, following with the cultural question, is the government helping you, supportive? Are there government programs to help foster plant based businesses? Are they making any connection between the expensive healthcare costs of eating meat and dairy, because these things make us sick? At least in the West, we've got diabetes, heart disease, cancer risks, et cetera. And as I understand it, those illnesses, diseases are growing in India and China because they're starting to eat more meat. So is the government making that connection, and are they helping you guys in any way?
Not like in a direct manner, so to say. In fact, we have to also understand the economics of how things play out. For example, a lot of Indian farmers, and India is basically an agricultural society. Most of the Indian population is employed in agriculture, and a lot of animals, small holdings. It is kind of a safety net in case of a crop failure and all that. So animals
I
are,
see.
yeah. So for that very reason, government is not like really into it promoting plant-based stuff, but Good Food Institute is doing a good work in that regard. They are connecting with policymakers, and
Yeah.
I think India has sanctioned a decent amount of money for research on tissue culture based meat or cell based meat, and
Oh.
food technology institutes are also working towards plant based meat. So eventually things are happening, but I think the pace can pick up for sure.
Will you be doing anything in the cellular agriculture space?
Not in the we have those some of those guys who have those kind of knowledges, but right now we are focusing more on plant based meat. But going ahead, uh, you can never say never. Yeah.
You can never say never. We live in such exciting times. In the green
Yeah.
room before we started this live conversation, we were saying that, in our lifetimes, we're going to look back and we're going to see such a shift in how consumers think about, consume, eat, buy, treat animals, that our grandkids are going to say, I just can't believe they did that disgusting,
I know.
unsavory kind of behavior. So we are living in
I know.
exciting times, and it's
Yeah.
because of your work. Really, it's because of your work.
So
So I'm
it's
grateful.
all of us. It's all
It's
of
all
us
of us.
across the globe. It's a common battle we have
It
on
sure
our hands.
is. It sure is. So, any trickiness for you? I mean, obviously, this is a bit challenging business time because of COVID-19. But how are you surviving? Have you had to reinvent yourself, or how are you making the money last when you can't get the sales product out to people?
So yeah, as I said, we have two companies. One is into the manufacturing of plant-based meat, and the other is into the vegan quick service restaurants across three cities. So our base company, which manufactures, we are cash positive, and we have broken even, so we are not bleeding. And yeah,
Good
thank
for
you.
you.
Yeah, so we are quite covered there. And as far as the other outlets, we are taking a strategic retreat in one or two locations, but then maybe opening at few more other locations. So we have once the lockdown started, our factory, as any other factory, was also closed, but we have again resumed production as we come under essential services. Food comes under essential services, so we have resumed our supply. So we are doing fine, and we are quite excited with the spike in demand. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'll just repeat. I'm going to come find you when COVID-19 is over, and I'm going to make you send me some stuff. So
Oh, sure, for sure. You bet.
it's wonderful. Well, so I have some exit questions for you. Some of them are more in depth, and some of them are one-word answers. You have your finger on the pulse globally. Here in the West, we often kind of just think about maybe the UK and the US, which is not the world clearly. So, from a global perspective, are there any predictions you can make for us?
You see, it's out there, right? The coronavirus
Mm.
stuff has just played out, brought the entire world on its knees. And
Mm-hmm.
what's quite distinct from the earlier pandemics like Ebola, which was quite localized, this
Yes.
has impacted every country and
Mm-hmm.
every dignitary, including political leaders. So
Yes.
who make those policies, right? So they know that this is quite real. For example, global warming is something not direct. You just
Mm-hmm.
see, you have to see the evidences of those things. This is quite direct, and it has hit home pretty bad. So I think the world has to turn plant based. It has to make strong regulation for animal industry and transparency, because this is not the most potent, and this is not the last virus which will come out from the these ill treatment of animals and the way we are handling them.
Yes, this could have been totally avoided. I mean, we have been
Absolutely.
documenting these kind of pandemic diseases since the early 1900s, and we're on
Yeah.
like pandemic number 7 or 8 or something. I mean, some are more
Yeah.
impactful than others, but and China right now has African swine fever and Asian
Wow.
bird flu and coronavirus all going on at the same time. So
That's a different beast altogether. African swine fever. I believe people are of course the focus has to be corona, but don't miss out on that because that has got 100% mortality. It has not become zoonotic, but every other disease progresses that way, and that has got pigs which are quite hardy, physiologically very close to humans, and
yes,
it's 100% mortality. So God forbid if that becomes zoonotic, it's apocalypse. There's no turning back from there. So we can't wait for it, as long as like we are going for a lockdown for extra precaution, right,
yes,
across the globe. So for that, I think we should not even take a chance. We should
yeah.
really dig deep. Real media, mainstream media has to highlight those things, and they have to make all those systems and distribution accountable, because all our safety depends on it. It's no more a personal choice. It's no more a personal choice.
I want to encourage everyone to just Google African swine fever and China. Just put those words in and start educating yourself about this. What we do here in the plant based world, of course, we vote 3 times a day with our dollars. There's nothing more powerful than using your dollars because politicians are out there doing this and doing that, but they're really not running things. Everybody wants your dollars. So when you vote with your wallet 3 times a day, you are truly making a difference. But don't forget, you also have your voice. So let your local mainstream media know they are not covering this, and they're not covering this to your peril. And that also means there's no real pressure on governments and politicians to be on the lookout for the possible apocalypse, as we say, with African swine fever, such an uncontrollable beast if it becomes zoonotic. And China is kind of crippled to its knees with its food source. They've the price of pork has skyrocketed because they've had to kill 1/3 to 50%. I've heard both kind of statistics of the pigs. I don't want to call it pork; it's pigs.
Yeah.
They've had to decimate all of their, 30 to 50% of their pigs. So it's a real problem, and we do not have our handle on the health issue, as you can see, because you're living through a pandemic. So you know, got to switch to plant based. But I'm going to do a show on that specifically with scientists who
Yeah.
can speak
Very
to
important.
African swine fever. I'm almost moving away from coronavirus and really focusing on that. It's such a huge topic and no one is talking about it. Is the Indian press talking about the connection between eating meat and the coronavirus?
Uh, no, not exactly. In fact,
Mm.
there have been some government stuff where, because the poultry has been hit pretty bad, because there was some outbreak of bird flu also simultaneously in some states, and which had a massive impact on the poultry industry here. So just to cover up, those losses, in fact, some recommendations have been put across that, of course, some validation, because there's no direct correlation between coronavirus and poultry as of now, or maybe other meat eating, except some of the wild meat, or some theories which are floating around, but no direct connection. And in fact, as far as African swine fever, there are some articles where I read that you know uh, uh, that is a DNA based disease, so it will be difficult for it to become zoonotic, and
Mm.
coronavirus is RNA based disease, it easily mutates. But we can't trust what is being written. In fact, WHO and other people, as late as January, said there's no human to human transmission, and then you see what has happened. So we have to, precaution has to be taken, and we have to be really serious about it. It's quite serious.
Yes, but I'd like to say to that, of course, you're 100% right, and we don't know. And to think that we can outsmart nature, okay, when are we ever going to
No.
get that lesson down? But when you say, and I agree with you, we have to take extreme precautions. I would see your extreme precautions and I would raise you. We have to get out in front of it. So, what we're doing with coronavirus is we're chasing behind
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah.
I'm not interested in masking, and I know you aren't either. I'm not interested in masking the symptoms. I'm interested in getting to the cause of it. If for no other reason, beyond human life, of course, the economic impacts here have been disastrous for each and every one of us as we are out of jobs and cannot go to work. Because right now we're talking about coronavirus and these health issues. Just wait till the global recession hits, folks. It's not
Yeah.
going to be a party. I have to bring back a smile. I'm sorry, I've lost my general host like demeanor. I will return to that. Okay, so we talked about your predictions.
All right.
What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
those theoretical pandemics could be as real.
Yeah.
So, something like coronavirus, if I had known, I would have shouted through my roof to
Yes.
whoever I know,
Yes.
this just cannot happen. So I would say that for sure. I would say that for sure, because our worst nightmare has come true, and
Yes.
we even don't know if it is going to be our worst nightmare ever. So we have to be really, really careful.
Yes, I completely agree. If you're having a bad day, you're wearing many hats and you're trying to do a lot in small budgets and small teams, and you're taking on the world. Something might not go your way. Is there a phrase that you say to yourself to get yourself mentally back in the right state of mind and keep yourself moving?
So yeah, basically, if that is the case, there's one quote called, I don't know if it's a quote I read somewhere. I looked for a hero, I found none, so I became one.
Mm,
So that was something, all of us can be heroes in our own individual life. We can do as a consumer, or as a animal activist, rescuer, or a person in this case. We have the power to do the best at a micro level. Do your best at the micro level. If you are capable of, god wills, you will get macro roles. But we can definitely do the best at a micro level. That's what we intend to do, and that's what we are doing. And we have no regrets in that effect. Yeah.
I love this. Anything you can do, gosh, get out there and do it. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that expression. Thank you so much. So, we all have a story about how and why we went vegan, but I'm wondering if there's one moment in time when something switched in your head and you said, I will never go back. I'm vegan, and that's that.
Yeah, I had a lot of struggle, becoming, I would eat meat 6.5 7 years back,
Mm,
because from a community where I come, people eat meat. And since my childhood, I have helped animals, so I will
mm,
keep going on and off meat in my teenage and all that,
mm,
because I like the taste of meat.
mm,
But something, when I would help animals, rescue them, you would make those connections.
mm,
So we are, many a times we are victims of the system, right? And you are born into the system, so you have to find the strength to come out of it. So that happened 7 years back when I left meat. But dairy, on and off, I'm not a big dairy consumer for a long
mm,
time, but I became vegan only 1.5 years back.
mm,
We give a lot of feed to stray cows and stray dogs here in our
mm,
locality. We have a team who just keeps on feeding them 3 times a day.
mm,
And
mm,
1.5 years back, there was one truck which dumped, a dairy had failed. They dumped around 20 cows in our locality. And looking at them, all old cows, unable to sustain themselves, not knowing where to get a water or feed. That was it. I said, okay, you left meat, but this doesn't
mm.
is not good enough. You have to just ditch this. So that was the thing which ultimately tipped the scale for me, and I became a vegan then. Yeah.
I love that you say this. I hadn't realized the inherent and foundational cruelty that exists in dairy, and
Yeah.
that dairy, by definition, is breaking the bond of motherhood and
Yeah.
dismantling the connection between mother and baby. And I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know that cows don't give milk because they're cows. Cows give milk because they're mothers. And we have that milk because we have broken that bond. It is an inhumane process and despicable in so many ways. And then, of course,
Yeah.
those dairy cows do end up as meat, at least in the Western world. So I thank you for giving up dairy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're out and about, you're super busy, you're super fast, you've got the 4 business models going on at once. You don't have time for lunch.
Yeah.
What is your favorite junk food?
So there are two. One is, we have a samosa in
Oh
India.
yeah.
Samosa is like, it's like a savory pastry with spicy potatoes and peas inside. So
Yeah.
that's my go-to comfort food. And also in our own place, we have chicken burger. It's a fried chicken burger like a zinger burger. We have it
Yummy.
at our outlets, and we know how, we have an access to that at any moment. So that's my go-to mock meat, junk food, so to say.
So when you have the samosa, which I love too, what's the sauce that you put on it? What's the
Chutney, we
oh,
call
your
it
chutney?
chutney. There
Okay.
there are two chutneys. One is a tangy and sweet chutney, and the other is a bit more spicy and mint chutney. So you can put both, and you can enjoy.
So
and
super
and
good.
yeah, it is amazing. It will water your mouth.
Yeah. And samosa has always traditionally been vegan, correct?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
food in India. A lot of
Is
food in
yeah.
India is by default vegan. It's by default vegan. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting all of these people telling me that the logo is blocking us. I do not see that, but oh well, I'll go like this. I want to
Okay.
thank you. Let
Thank
me
you.
make sure that I'm pronouncing this right again. Abhishek.
Yeah, that's
Yes, thank
correct.
you. I had to double check myself here. I'd practiced so many times before we started, and then we got into the conversation. Abhishek Sinha, thank you so much for all that you do, for being a voice for animals, for being a voice for people, quite frankly, as you try to get them on a more humane and a better physical diet for themselves, which is also a better mental diet for yourself, and what you're doing for the planet, and for working so hard and having so many business models up and running all at the same time. I look forward to coronavirus being over for all of us, but specifically for you, so you can branch into the Middle East and Canada. So very, very exciting. If anybody wants more information, of course, you can go to my website, ElisabethAlfano.com. This interview, if you missed any of it, will be up there in a couple hours. It's also on the Awesome Vegans podcast. The Plant-Based Business Hour is one of the series on that podcast. So please, everybody, go to iTunes. You know how to do it. Go to the Awesome Vegans podcast and subscribe and review. This interview will be there in about 2 days. And, if you want more information about GoodDot, go to goodDot.in, which is wonderful. I want to thank you for being with me. I hope that you'll come back. Keep us updated on all that you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It was an honor to be here. And the moment COVID is lifted, you'll get those products.
Oh,
And we love a feedback,
okay. I'm
review
holding you
from
to
you.
it. Well, maybe we can have a little dinner party. If you
Taste
get me the
for
products, we'll
sure.
come back
Yeah,
online and we'll do some eating
absolutely.
together.
We'll do that for
Okay.
sure.
It's wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for tuning
Thank you.
in. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, I would, of course, be so grateful. That link is in this feed. And to all the people watching, I mean. And then, Abhishek, thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. You are coming back. And to the viewers, thank you for caring about the health of the planet, yourselves, and animals. Together, we are taking back our health and the health of the planet. Everybody, I will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Jane Unchained. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.